Well, I'll tell you. All right, we are live. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I have. How do you say your username there? Otis
Yeah, out of
Otis
six.
six.
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
out of six. From team Suuper Protocol, and we've been trying to work out our schedules with Suuper Protocol for a couple of weeks now because we've been wanting to do an AMA for a long time, and just the schedules have not worked out for one reason or another. But it is he's over in Europe, and it's 4 a.m. there right now. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, it's 4 a.m.
Oh my goodness! So you'll have to excuse him if he's tired or anything like that, and we'll try not to take too much of your time. And for those who are watching, thank you again for joining me. I always appreciate you guys. Again, we can't do AMAs unless people come and watch. If you could comment what time it is where you're at. Again, comments, and then if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and like this because that tells the algorithm that hey, this is good content, and then it shows it to more people. Do not dislike it because that will make it show to fewer people, and we don't want that. So, all right, well, out of six, thank you for joining me today or this morning, I guess. Could you go ahead and just start by introducing yourself and kind of talk about your background before this project?
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So my name is Arisix. I'm the CEO of Suuper Protocol. And to give you guys a bit more background information about myself, I started with my crypto adventure back, let's say, half of 2017, while I was doing my internship in London. And basically, I just met some guys at school who were always talking about crypto and Bitcoin, which is BTC, and then at that time I didn't know anything about Bitcoin. And of course, when you hear a lot of people saying like, hey, I'm making a lot of profit and you should check this out. And then I just started to read, and I think by July or August 2017 I did my first purchase, and I think I bought maybe, I think it was that time, 75 euros worth of Bitcoin. And yeah, that's basically how everything started. And since then, yeah, it became more and more, and yeah, until now, basically.
Okay, what made you want to be part of your own project?
Okay, so basically, the first 2 years when I started with crypto in general, so let's say half of 2017, let's say until almost 2019, I was just investing in crypto, especially on the long term, and I just invested in ETH, BTC, and other projects. But then when you start to work and you start to read more and more, and you start to really get a lot of people who are in the crypto and especially in the DeFi space, then you can see there's really a big opportunity in our life. And I'm somebody who likes to read a lot because I studied finance and economics. And then one day I read an article of the World Bank where they talk about the adoption rate of crypto in general. And then I read an article that was saying like, hey, today we have an adoption rate with crypto of 144% a year, which basically means that by 2026 we will have more or less 1 billion crypto users around the world. So basically that's like 1/8 of the world population. And that really struck me like, hey, there's an immense opportunity here. And I wouldn't say it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it's getting really close to that. That 1/8 of the world population by 2026 will have something to do with crypto. And then, yeah, you meet some people, and I really got interested in the DeFi space. And that's basically how everything started. I've met the core team, and we basically saw like, hey, what are the things that are going good within the crypto DeFi space? What are the things that are going bad? What are the flows? And how can we make a sustainable ecosystem where basically the holders are the base, and the empowerment lays with the community. And yeah, we really started from scratch, and today we have Super Protocol, which I'm very proud of course, that we finally got what we worked very hard for months behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for those who don't know what Titano is, I'll just maybe run through that real quick. So basically, Titano is the easiest DeFi project to get into. You just buy the token, and it just sits in your wallet. You don't have to stake it, you don't have to note it. It just sits there and it rebases every so often, and then that's all. That's it. Then you end up with more Titano than you started with, and so that's kind of created a whole class of projects are these Titano, and then Safuu kind of came on top of it, and they did things a little bit differently. So where does Suuper fit in with Titano and Safuu? And are you a fork of one of those, or a combination of the two of them, or what are you guys kind of?
Yeah. So basically, what I have to tell you from the beginning is that we really started from scratch. So we're not a copy, or we didn't say like, hey, let's look at the contract or what so on. We really started from scratch, and that's why it also took us more. What's different about us is that, of course, we're a protocol where you have an auto compound and auto staking protocol, so you don't have to do anything. Just buy your tokens, and every 10 minutes you get those rebase rewards. It's true. But what is different, and what I call like our USP, or so our unique selling proposition, is the fact that we have a DAO structure that basically means that everyone who holds a Suuper Protocol token gets a seat at the table. And what I mean by that is that every decision that we make as a Suuper Protocol, it can be about our treasury investment, it can be about new features, can be about partnerships. All those decisions are made by the Suuper Protocol family. So basically what it means that depending on how many tokens that you will have a certain voting power. And the more tokens you have, the more voting power you will be having. And that is something that is really unique. So because I know that people need both things in crypto space. One thing is that they need something tangible, which of course is the rebase rewards. You have a dashboard. Every 10 minutes you get those rewards and you can see it, and you don't have to do anything for that. And that is pretty amazing. It's simple as that, and you don't have to do something. The other thing that is very important is that people need to have the feeling that they're part of the decision-making process. And we just made sure that we took the best of both worlds and we combined them. And that, I think, in my opinion, is something that is kind of unique in what we're doing or trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's yeah, thanks. And I can tell by the way your community has reached out to me in some ways that they don't think of you as the same. Like, you have a very, very strong community. We might say you have a super community, if we could say that. So that's really cool. Some things that I noticed. Well, first, could you walk through maybe a little bit? So when I go to your dashboard, most of it looks familiar, from Titano, where you have like it's Suuper Price and the Suuper Treasury, but then there's the Wildfire. Could you talk about that and how that fits in?
Yeah. So basically, our Wildfire Pit is a unique wallet where 2% of the buy and sell tax go to that wallet. And basically, what it is, I will try to explain it for people who are kind of new within the crypto DeFi space. So basically, what happens is that that Wildfire Pit acts like a normal wallet, and we can call it our burn wallet. And what is very nice is because people are asking like, hey, how can you have that sustainable APY? How can you have an APY of 460,000%, which is really amazing and incredibly high? So basically what happens, so like every 10 minutes, the contract mints new tokens, and those are distributed to all the holders. That means that the circulating supply will of course increase because you're creating new tokens. So in a way, if you do that, at the end of the road, you will create inflation because you will have more tokens, and of course you will have a negative impact on the price and the APY, whatever. And there is where the unique function of our Wildfire Pit puts to play. So basically what happens, 2% of that buy and sell tax go to the Wildfire Pit, and those are tokens that we can access never again. So it's act like a normal wallet, but we blacklist it from selling or to be able to purchase or taken away forever. And what is very nice is that those tokens, we can never access them again. But when we send those tokens to that Wildfire Pit, they keep receiving the rebase rewards. So let's say you send 1,000 Suuper Protocol tokens to that wallet. Every 10 minutes, they keep receiving those rebase rewards, which of course adds a deflationary effect because the circulating supply at the end will diminish. And that's, for example, what is very unique about our Wildfire Pit. And we just made sure that we hard coded it, that we can never sell it. And yeah, that is something that's pretty amazing about our Wildfire Pit.
Okay, so basically, yeah, tokens get sent to that, and then it rebases just like any other wallet does. And so you end up, but it's not ever going to be used. So you end up
We
with just
can't.
this huge amount of unused tokens, which is very good for the deflation of the currency, where
Exactly. Yeah,
eventually the fire pit will be just ginormous, right? Is that the
exactly.
idea?
Yeah, yeah. And it will have an impact on the circulating supply. It will diminish, of course.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. And then just for people too who aren't familiar, it's hard for me because I'm very familiar with Safuu and Titano, and so I'm trying to make sure I ask questions uh, from not having looked into those as much. But could you talk a little bit about where the liquidity comes from and how your liquidity increases over time, kind of with your protocol?
Yeah. So basically, of course, what is very familiar about protocols, even about Safeu and Titano and other forks in general, even though we're not really 100% to compare with those protocols, is that you have a certain buy and sell tax, which is kind of high. It's 14 and 16%. And we just made sure that we have a certain percentage that's going to different wallets. So, for example, we have 3% for the buy tax that's going to the LP, which provides liquidity so people can buy and sell, and you need that liquidity, of course, which is very important. Of course, we have our Wildfire Pit burn wallet, and of course we have also 4% that is going to our Treasury wallet, and our Treasury wallet is basically our ecosystem basic foundation. And so our Treasury wallet will be 100% used to invest in different kind of DeFi projects. So 4% of the buy and sell tax is going to that. And today, I think after 12 days that we launched, we have more than $125,000 worth of Treasury wallet. And that wallet, 100% of that wallet will only be used to invest in different kind of DeFi projects. It can be low risk, medium risk, high risk, depending on what the community votes. So basically, we will tell like, hey guys, we find some different kind of DeFi project, but it's up to you to make the decision in which one do you want us to invest in. And what is very nice is that 100% of that profit that we get with investing in that Treasury wallet will flow back to the community. So we don't take anything. So 100% of the profit will flow back to the community, and this can be, for example, in airdrops or whatever. And that is something that is very amazing. And if you just go to our website or read our white paper, you can definitely see like, hey, this is the amount of percentage that is going to each wallet. Yeah, and this is very nice in my opinion.
Yeah, very cool. I just want to give some shout outs to some people. Rowdy Guy, thanks for watching. We have Amana's here. Thank you for watching. Got a lot of people here. Appreciate you guys watching. If you do have questions that you'd like to ask as we go through, I try to keep an eye out for them. Sometimes I get rambling and I forget to look, but just ask them enough times, and eventually I'll see it and I'll bring it up and we'll ask it. Could you talk a little bit about your anti-whale measures? Because I know that was a big problem for Titano, at least at first, is they would end up with some
Yeah,
whales who could just crush the protocol. You know, you get to a
yeah,
certain size with the rebases this high. What have
exactly.
you guys
Yeah.
done to kind of try and fix that?
That's a very good question because it's something that we hear a lot. So basically, what we did in the beginning is that when we launched, we had an anti-whale and anti-tax because we was like, hey, especially in the beginning, it's very important that when some whales are buying and then they start to sell, they will have a big impact on the chart. But then we listened to our community and they would say like, hey, we live in a free market, it is what it is. And at the end, if you have a strong community, and as you can see, James, if you just read our Discord channel, if you just go to our Telegram, you see the reaction of people. We really have that strong community. And I think that's really the foundation of our protocol. We decided also, thanks to the input of our community, to not to have any anti-whale tax anymore. So basically, we live in a free market and people can buy and sell freely whatever they want. And my only piece of advice that I give to people who say to me like, yeah, but aren't you scared that whales are going to sell or whatever? Well, the thing I always tell them like, hey, we are really looking for those ambassadors. We are looking for people who can carry on these projects. That's why we have that DAO structure where the power lays with the community, that everyone gets a seat at the table. And if you just buy and you stick around and you just do nothing, but basically because for that you have to do nothing, you will get those rewards every 10 minutes, and that loyalty, how I call it, will get rewarded. You just have to wait, you just have to vote, you just have to be very active. And at the end, each and every day we have more and more holders coming in. I think after 12 days that we launched, because we launched the 31st, we have almost 3,000 holders, which is pretty amazing in a time where the overall market situation is kind of baddish, in my opinion. And we see it each and every day. More and more people are joining our channels and spreading the word. And in my opinion, that's still the best marketing that you can have. Those strong people who support you in every way possible.
Do you have any theory? So my Twitter DMs are full of people asking about Suuper. What do you? Why is that? Why do you think the community backs you guys so much, and why do you think you have like such an avid community this quickly? What do you think it is?
Yeah, well, I think you have a lot of experience, and sadly, the crypto, especially the DeFi space, is a very hostile environment where you see a lot of new projects. And I think I even saw a video of you, I think a few weeks ago, where you got rug pulled or something. And sadly, these days it's very easy and very normal that once in a while you get rug pulled in a project that you invested. And what I think is very important, and I just made sure that we built a lot of, how I call it, is like extra layers of safety. So besides the fact that we did a lot of KYC verification, we passed the Solidity Finance audit with flying colors. I doxed myself. I'm always on video AMAs. I'm always talking in the community. And I think that people are seeing like, hey, instead of the core team sitting at one side of the table and the community members at the other side, we are really part of the Discord. We are really talking one-on-one. And I think with that, you can make the difference, because those are the people who will talk positive about you. Those are the people who are spreading the word. And we just made sure that we really have that close relationship with our community. And the fact that all the voting power on whatever investment that we do with the Treasury wallet, or with nice ideas regarding extra features about our dashboard, we always talk to a community, and they're basically the one who are making the decision. And the fact that they have and the rebase rewards and the fact that they get a seat at the table, I think, yeah, that really attracts a lot of people. And yeah, I think that's the reason why, to be honest.
Okay. All right. We have a question from Matthew. He says, is Suuper planning on partnering with any established projects like Sphere or alike for guidance and feedback?
Very good question. So we're really talking a lot behind the scenes with a lot of partnerships. For example, Sphere, other protocols. We're really trying to see like, hey, what are the partnerships that we need to be sustainable in the long term? Because we're well aware that you need those marketing, you need campaigns, you need DEX tool trending, you need to have a lot of holders to be able to have that sustainability. But of course, you need those partnerships. So what we're doing, we started basically with what we call our wave. So during the launch, we did our wave 1, where we focus really on spreading the word and marketing. Wave 2 was a lot of YouTube campaigns, AMAs, live sessions, for example, with you today. And wave 3 is really like trying to reach out to those partnerships that will carry on and even put us on a higher place. So we're definitely exploring those partnerships, and we already started with some nice meetings, and it's looking very promising, to be honest.
Okay, very cool. Have you considered like doing OTC, like over the counter trades for the whales? Like, is that something that you guys have looked into? Or I know that a lot of like the node projects do that. If a big whale wants to sell, they work something out over the counter. I don't know if any of the Titano type projects have considered that or have anything in place for that.
We haven't considered it yet, but I've heard some people talk about it in our chat, and we dedicated on our Discord. If you go to proposals, and I see a lot of ideas, and it's one of the ideas that I saw. So what we do is always, every time people are posting new things in the proposal section, we talk about it during our next AMA, and then we see what people are saying about that. So I just bring the idea like, hey, I've read this idea, what do you think about? And then I just read the comment section, and that's basically how we work on that very close relationship. So for example, you also had the Obsidian Council. I don't know if you know them, the OC.
Yeah.
It's something also that people were saying to us like, hey, you should have that. That's why, for example, we also have the multi-sig on the Treasury wallet. So that wallet that we'll be using purely for investment in different kind of DeFi projects. We already have a multi-sig, and we saw, for example, that people saying, hey, you should maybe add one or two community members. And that's basically what we'll be doing in the next weeks, is adding extra community members to that multi-sig for that Treasury wallet. So we really listen to them, and we really take everything into consideration when somebody has a good idea.
Okay, very cool. All right, the commenters are starting to get some good questions. All right, so we're gonna put you on the spot. That's what you do in these lives. But what would you say is your innovation? So like Sphere is kind of the new up and comer with, that just seems to be really kind of changing the space a little bit. What would you consider as like Suuper's biggest innovation or like addition to the protocol?
Well, the fact that we combine, in my opinion, the high APY, I wouldn't say that is unique, because you have a lot of protocols who are auto compounding or auto staking. But the fact that we combine it with the DAO structure, where people can vote about the Treasury wallet, and that 100% of that wallet is going back, or the benefits are going back to the community, I think that is already pretty amazing. And that we're constantly building on extra features, extra utility, that we're really taking the time to be different. And how can you be different? Because we know what happens is that when you have a good project, or when you have a very good contract, and you just made sure that you have a very good strong base, you see a lot of, I wouldn't say copycats, but you see a lot of projects start to copy things that are going good, and then they take away the flaws, and then they continue. It's always like that. So what you have to do is always keep improving on different kind of levels. You have to have the features, you have to have the partnerships, you have to have extra utilities. So we're really focusing on a lot, and especially those next 2 quarters are very important for us, where we'll be building those extra features and extra utility, and that's something that you need very hard. And you combine this with that strong, loyal protocol family, I think that's something that puts us differently compared to other projects. And if you just look at our chart, because that's something I also want to tell you. For example, that when we launched, we held basically a pre-sale, where we had a hard cap of 2000 BNB, which is kind of okay. And it took us, I think, 54 seconds for the pre-sale to be filled. And we really saw like, the hype is really real. We have something unique, and we need to keep moving forward. And then when you look at the chart, basically, because the overall market situation is kind of baddish, we always recovered, and people were calling us already the dip eaters, because we always made sure that every dip, that we came out stronger from that, and that's basically what we're doing. And yeah, I think that puts a bit different than other projects, to be honest.
Cool. Would you want to talk a little bit about what's on the roadmap? So Amana talks about plans for getting revenue other than DeFi as a service.
Yeah, so we're working on different levels. So if you go to our white paper, and you read our roadmap, so what we're doing, besides adding some extra functionality on the dashboard, because we got some feedback of people saying like, hey, can you add this and add this? We already have the flows trading that people can buy with fiat money. Besides, we also have the extra certic auditing, because people were saying like, hey, you should do that. So we just made sure that we already do that, so to build that extra layer of safety. And then, of course, the partnerships that will make sure that we attract new people to our community, especially those big whales investors that you also need to have the positive momentum. So what we always say is that we try to focus on different levels, basically marketing, what you also need, functionality, and then partnerships. And that's why we always, when you go to our white paper, and you go to the section roadmap and white paper, you can always have a detailed overview about, hey, what's coming next, and what's already fulfilled, or the steps that we already fulfilled 100%. So, and of course, our Discord channel, announcement channel, people can always have a next view. And we already started now with our first giveaway that we started, I think, a few days ago, where we'll be giving away more than 100,000 worth of dollars as an airdrop campaign.
Okay. And then I think I should hire Amana as my questioner. Like, you should come on, and you should just be here and you should do the interviews because you got good questions. And tough questions. Sometimes people tell me I'm too easy on because I'm like a nice guy, So I'm like, but his question here is: are there any new marketing strategies other than the typical marketing strategies all the similar Titano-like projects are using? So, what are you guys doing on the marketing side of things? To kind of keep that hype going. Unfortunately, that hype is a big part of what keeps protocols going. So, what do you guys have on the marketing front?
Yeah, very good question. So, of course, you need the online social media representative. You need the YouTube campaign, you need the Dexul attending. These are kind of regular marketing activities that you need and that people love. But what we find very important, in my opinion, word of mouth is already very important. Basically, that people are talking about your project, loyal Suuper Protocol family. We see that when people start to talk in other Discord channels, in other YouTube channels, when they comment or are spamming your channel, for example, like they did with not I'm not spamming with yours, but the direct like, hey, you should talk about Suuper Protocol. In my opinion, this is very important marketing that is priceless because you don't pay an amount for that, and people are just very happy to talk about your project. Um, but the DAO structure, the fact that the power relates with the community and that we are decentralized, autonomous organization, give us a lot of opportunities to work with other marketing strategy campaigns. So we're combining, let's say, both offline and online. Of course, we have the magazines, you have the YouTube interviews. Of course, you have the billboards. We're also very famous lately. What I see a lot of new ways to attract new people, where you have some billboards. So we're really exploring different ways of marketing, let's say both offline and online, to keep the momentum going, because that is of course very important, especially when the overall market situation is not ideal.
Okay. And then it's another good question, because this is a concern I see from people from time to time is when you're leaving it up to the DAO, like to make investment decisions, and the market is not doing super great. A lot of people are losing money, in this type of market. And so does it seem risky, or do you have any thoughts on leaving um, Treasury Investments up to the DAO, who might not totally, know what they're doing, or they might don't have experience in investing?
Mhm. Exactly. So what we also do is that when we are categorizing different DeFi projects, we always have a distinction between low risk, medium risk, and high risk opportunities. And so basically, what we also do is we provide all the necessary information to make sure, like, hey, okay, you want to invest in this DeFi project, or you want to vote for this DeFi project. These are the positive things, these are the negative things. This is potentially highly return that you get, but it has more risk. So we just made sure that all the information that people need to make that decision or to vote for treasury investment, that we provide all that information. And of course, we need a good balance, because you can't just say like, hey, you know what, let's go 100% for a high risk, high reward APY or DeFi project, because you know that especially with these times, it can be very risky and tricky. And it's not the goal of losing money. So we'll just make sure that we have a good balance, where we have a mix of between low risk and high risk rewards, where at the end people will have a positive benefit and receiving those rewards.
Okay. And then Amana again. I think he might be a Sphere fan, is what I'm gathering from the questions. But do you have any plans? So Sphere does have a pretty impressive DApp side of things, and any plans to kind of update your DApp to look more like theirs, I guess?
Yeah, it's true. Our the app and even our dashboard are really what I call the epic center, because it's with that dashboard you can have an overall overview about, hey, how many tokens do I have, what kind of investor do I am, and when you compare with day one when we launched our D app, we already improved certain things. So for example, now what we did already is, for example, that depending on how many tokens that you have, we categorize you as a different investor. You can be a small fish, big fish, different kind of fish, depending on how many super protocols. So when you connect your wallet, for example, your MetaMask with the D app, it already sees like, hey, you're this kind of investor, because of course it also has an impact on your voting power. Because I told you like, hey, depending on how many tokens that you will have, let's say more seats at the table, as I say it. And we keep improving functionality. We keep improving different kind of features, because it's something that we really appreciate, that we receive those feedback, and then we just find it very important. So the D app is something that we're working constantly on, to make it a bit more interactive, to change certain things. And it can be about everything. It can be functionality, it can be some features, can be even the colors. We always already take every feedback into consideration, and then we look like, okay, can this change give us an added value, yes or not? And then we do it depending on the feedback that we get.
Okay. And we'll give Amana one more question, but we've got to open it for everybody.
You have to
So
tell Amana that she should join our Discord. I like her questions, really.
yeah, there you go. So for this question, we kind of talked about this already, but if you had somebody who was a new investor and they're looking around at the space right now and they have, we'll say $5,000, what would you tell them that, and they're like, okay, I'm trying to decide between Titano and Safuu and Sphere and Suuper. What would you tell them that would be the reason to come to you instead?
It might struck you, and it's a kind of different answer that you would expect from me. But I would always say, like, always do your own research, and if you see any red flag, don't invest. You better be safe than sorry. And what I always say to people, like, hey, go and add yourself to the Discord and Telegram, do your own research. And if you say, like, hey, I really believe them, I really trust the team, I like how they talk, I like how they do the video AMAs, I like the roadmap, what you're doing, and as I say, actions speak louder than words. And if you really deliver what you promise, then you can say, like, hey, I might be investing in this kind of project. But you should always trust your gut and do your own research. And if it's Suuper Protocol, fine, join our Discord, read, and then decide for yourself. I'm not saying, like, hey, you should buy for that and that reason. I always invite people and say, just stick around, read, take your time, and then you should always trust your gut. And if you want to invest in Suuper Protocol, I will be more than happy, and I will welcome you, I will talk to you, I will answer your questions. If you want to invest in other DeFi projects, fine. I wish you all the best. And that's really always my only piece of advice I'm giving to people, to be honest.
Yeah, and what I might tell somebody too, so like Titano has been around for a long time, and there is advantage in these to being earlier rather than later, just because like I got into Titano early, and so my little investment in Titano is now a very large investment, and a lot of people who got in early have very large investments, whereas in like something like Suuper, people have not had time to turn their wallets from $1,000 into $15,000 or $10,000 into $100,000 yet. So there is advantage to getting in early. So that's one thing I would say. And then also diversification is good
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea to, again, not financial advice as you pointed out, but putting some into Sphere and into Suuper and into Safuu. And you just don't know what's going to happen with different projects for different reasons.
Yeah.
So
And I think also to add on that, it's true, diversifying is always very important, and it's something that I always also advise to people. But we're a project that haven't been in the space for more than 2 weeks. We launched the 31st, so it's like 12, 13 days, and we have one of the lowest market cap and really the biggest space to grow. And people are very early. I'm telling you, each and every day, more and more investors are coming, and we already have almost 3,000 investors, and it will just be a matter of time until we reach 5, 6, 7,000 people. And especially when we start with those treasury investments, we have 125K worth of money to really invest. And then when people see, like, hey, wow, those profits are flowing back to us in certain airdrops and whatever, I think it will just take a certain moment of time to attract those new investors. So the earlier you get in, the more beneficial you will have and the more profits you will be taking. So I agree 100% with you on that.
yeah, and also, yeah, you bring up a good point about the market cap, but you can look at the market cap of some of these protocols, and you compare the amount of hype in Suuper to some of these protocols, and you can kind of start to guess. I think the market cap is gonna probably get up to this point, and I'm not going to say what that is, but you can start to kind of figure out, okay, I think the market cap is going to end here, or this is where it's going to kind of hang out. and then you can kind of get a good idea of what's going to happen to the price. And
Exactly.
so that's something that I would consider. But that's one of the big advantages, I think, is getting in early. Just because, again, I put in a little bit of money into Titano early, and now it's a lot of money. And I know that everybody that went into Titano early is in that place. Well, except for today, they didn't do well today, but I won't talk about that.
Yeah.
So this is a good question. This is more of an encouraging question. So we'll just go for this. But what are your short-term goals? Like, where do you see now? I would call a year in DeFi to be a long-term goal, not a short-term goal. But where do you see Suuper in a year?
That's a very good question. In my opinion, it's hard to predict, let's say, a certain market cap, because if you do that, and after a year, people will say like, "Hey, you said like we will have this market cap, and it's kind of lower or higher." So about that. But if you follow the roadmap, I think that we will have what we call a very high market cap. We'll deliver what we promise. I think we'll be reaching a lot high numbers of Suuper protocols, and people will definitely see like, hey, we're really the next big thing. So in my opinion, the sky is the limit. But of course, we live in a very hostile environment, and we just want to make sure that everything that we promise we deliver, because as I mentioned, actions speak louder than words, and especially in the crypto DeFi space, where each and every day new protocols, a new Safuu, Titano forks arrive, copycats, or people even who started from scratch like we did. And they always try to be different in different kind of ways. So you always have to keep inventing yourself. And I think that the fact that we're combining everything, that we always try to add new features, add new utilities. I think, to be honest, in 1 year, that besides the fact that we will make some people very rich, of course, I'm very happy for them. I think we can definitely have an important role within the crypto DeFi space and DAO structure. That's how I see it in 1 year, to be honest.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and that reminded me of another thing. I mean, the reason I do these AMAs is to get to know the team, because really a big chunk of what you're investing in is the team, because there's going to be pivots, there's going to be, things that rocky roads and things like that. And so
True.
really a lot of what you're investing in is the team and their ability to kind of handle those things. So that's why, I want to see your face, and I want to see, can you handle my money?
You want to see my face at 4 in the morning?
Yeah, that's right. Well, if you can think on your feet at 4 in the morning, then we're probably good to go. So that's
Yeah,
good.
I think that is very important. And a lot of people forget that people buy from people. You believe in a project, but you believe in certain people. You believe how they talk. You believe how their docs. I did the KYC verification, and I'm not saying that if you did a KYC or you dox yourself that, hey, you're 100% good to go. Sadly, it doesn't mean, sorry for my language, shit nowadays. But we just want to have that strong relationship, want to have that one-on-one relationship, and I think that if I can build those extra layers of safety and say like, hey, people, we find your safety very important. That's why we're also doing the CertiK. That's why we are talking with OC, with Obsidian Council. That's why we did that, and just to make sure like, hey, people, it is very safe to trust us. And of course, you have to trust the community, and it's going to be a bumpy ride from time to time. You can see that the chart in general now is a bit down. Of course, the overall market situation is bad, and it also has an impact on especially DeFi projects where people are a bit more risky and a bit more scared, which is perfectly normal. But at the end, you will see that loyalty gets rewarded, and that is very nice to see when you see like, hey, people are, and also, for example, if you go to our Discord, and it's really funny in the beginning, when people are asking general questions, it can be about, hey, what are the tokenomics, what is the marketing, and all these different kind of things. We had to answer each and every question, but now if somebody has a question and I'm just typing the right answer, I think that in less than 5 seconds already 3 other people were giving the correct answer, and that is like, yes, that is something that I really like about the community, and that is very important for me, to be honest. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. That made me think too, something I noticed about Titano recently is Titano, you need this really big loyal community so that when the price dips a little bit, you don't just have this dump of like, oh, everybody freaking out. And so Titano, I think, if anybody from Titano is watching, this is not FUD, but they started out with like a pretty decent community. But then over time, it's become just people looking for returns, and they've kind of lost their core community. And so I think that's part of the reason we're seeing this now. Do you have any plans for like how do you keep that community growing? How do you bring investors into the community instead of them just staying out there as investors? How do you bring them into the community, I guess is my
by,
question.
by promising, by delivering what you promise, and by being there, and being there 24 and 24, 7 on 7. Not like, oh, it's only had to be me, we have a very strong core team, but just to be there. Well, it's nice to be there when the chart is pumping and when people are buying and the buys are flowing in. It's very nice, people are hyped, but it's even more important to be there when the chart is going down or when the overall market situation is bad, and then to cheer up people and say like, hey, wait and see, stick around, we're working very hard, hosting those AMAs, where people can ask everything. And of course, when you deliver what you promise, people are saying like, you know what, I will trust those guys. And that's the best thing, because you need that strong community when the overall market situation is bad. And we prove it. It's unbelievable, and sometimes it's really mind-blowing, what a strong community that we have.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to thank two people in the comments who are showing support for me. Also, I appreciate that a lot, guys. I have had a lot of videos here recently because I was out of town for a while, so they kind of all got squished together. But I appreciate you guys and your support, and so really appreciate that. Let's see. We got a lot of questions. This is awesome. You guys are awesome. Oh, this is another one from Amon. I didn't even mean to do that. Oh, and he mentioned Sphere too. Do you have any thoughts about separating yourself from the high APY wars would be smart? So that's kind of become a thing now where, no, we have the highest APY. No, we have the highest APY. Do you have any thoughts on?
For me, it's not a competition. I saw even projects with an APY of I think it was 850,000%. It's not a concours with state in France or a competition. For me, it's better to have a high APY that you can sustain, instead of promising a certain amount and then have to say like after 2 or 3 months like, yeah, sorry guys, we can't sustain it. It's becoming lower, because then you don't really deliver what you promise. So we just really made sure that high APY, it's high 460,000%, that we can sustain it. And I'd rather have this than say like, hey, let's aim for even 1 million and then have to say after 2 months, sorry guys, it's not going to work. So it's not a competition in my opinion, because that's something that high APY is nice, but it can't be the only motivation that you have to be investing in those protocols. But it's true, if you're early, you can take a lot of money. It's nice. But for me, my opinion, what strikes us and makes us different is that DAO structure, and the fact that you can have 100% of that treasury wallet invested in different DeFi projects, and that those profits flow back to you. That is different, that you get a seat at the table depending on how many Suuper protocols that you have. That is for me the unique selling proposition that we have, and that we find very important towards our community.
All right. Then Digital Woody, how about a giveaway for James fans who tweeted and retweeted this out? You know what? I'll do it. $100. I'll give away to one person. I think I worded it wrong in a different AMA, because I think I said $100 to anyone who tweets this out. And then I got all these DMs. I did it. I mean, $100 for one person who does it. So let's see. I'll put this on Twitter afterwards, and if somebody retweets it out who is here, the secret code is we'll say duck. Okay, so put duck in the Twitter post, and we'll do $100 for somebody. Jack is a big fan. He says, join the Discord, great community. You can ask anything. You won't get banned if you mention other protocols. And he says, I've never been so bullish on a team and devs in a project ever.
That's nice. That's really nice. And to be honest, when I see something like that, it can really make my day, because we've been working very hard behind the scenes, and the one thing I learned during our journey is that sleep is so underrated. Like it's really nice to sometimes get some sleep, and especially when you're working hard, and when you see some compliments and you see people, especially in these days, saying like, hey, we really love your support, we really love what you're doing. That is yeah, it's very nice to hear that. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. So Jack, thank you very much for that compliment.
Yes. Yep. And it is amazing too. It takes a lot of positive comments to overcome just a few negative comments. So yeah, we always appreciate the positive comments.
Exactly, and it also happens when we launched, because what happened basically is when we launched, and I don't know if you had the time to look it up, but when we launched, sadly we got some people who were part of the pre-sale, and even we did a small part of private sale, who were just there to say like, hey, I want to triple, quadruple my investments and then go to the next project. You always have those projects. You're looking for the pump and dump, and then they go on to the next project, and what we said even before the launch is that like, hey guys, we're not looking for those investors. We're really looking for those ambassadors who can start with us from day one, and stick around, and take the bumpy road with us, and they will get rewarded. And especially when people were part of the private sale and whitelist spots, they started to sell, I think, the first hour after the launch. So instead of going up, we were going a bit down, and people were starting to FUD and say like, hey, what is this? And we said like, hey, just wait. We started with marketing. Just stick around. Give us 12 hours. And then it was really amazing when we started with our wave one of YouTube campaigns and textual trending and all those different things that we did. We saw this chart pumping up, and those people who were initially within the private sale started to buy back the tokens, and I was like, hey, why didn't you just stick around and you just gave us some trust? And that's
Yep.
that's like, why, why?
Yep. Yep. Well, and you're not going to make a lot of money in a project like this if you sell and buy a lot because of the taxes. So would have been better holding on. And that's cool to see kind of a rough start at the beginning. It's actually, I know it was stressful to go through, but it's actually cool to see now because we know, okay, they can go through a rough time and they're not going to just, a lot of teams when they go through a rough launch, they're out. They're like, oh, peace out. This isn't going to work. The communities don't buy in anymore. They're like, no, we're out. So sometimes I like to see that at a launch, not for I know it's stressful for you
I
guys,
know what you mean. Yeah.
but from my perspective, I like to see that at a launch just because it's like, if you were going to rug pull, well, it would have been better back to do it then than now. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
to see that.
It's true. It was really nice, and then we started to see that, and it was like, wow. And then more and more buys were coming in, and people were getting hyped, and it just proved my point that like, hey, if you're here for a pump and dump, you're not at the correct address. But sadly, you always have people like that, and you can't blame them. We live in a free market. People can do whatever they want, but we are really looking for those ambassadors who can yeah, get a seat at the table.
Okay. And then Daniel wants to know, is the burn rate adjustable if needed?
At the moment, it's not. So it's a fixed amount of percentage for the burn. Yeah, because we really calculate like, hey, how much percentage do we need to have a sustainable APY, and it's something that is fixed at the moment. So it's not adjustable for now.
Okay. And this is a good question, especially for people who are new to Titano and Safuu and this whole idea of, 100 and hundreds of thousands of APY. So how sustainable do you think this is? So like most of these protocols, have these calculators in the DApp, where it's like, okay, if I put this amount in, 460,000% APY, how sustainable do you think this is? Do you think in 10 years, this is going to look the same way it does, or just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we just made sure that that the high APY that we provide can sustain at least for more than 1 year, and even longer. But of course, don't forget that, as mentioned before, that we live in a world where, with the current adoption rate, we'll have 1 billion crypto users by 2026. So more and more people will start to buy. More and more people will invest in those different projects, because in a way it's also a nice way to have more and more money in, let's say, in a very short period of time. Because with the current inflation rate, with the current rate that you're getting if you put money aside on your bank account or savings account, with the current percentage that you're getting each year, it's yeah, you're basically losing money because the inflation rate is higher than what you get. So your ROE is very low. But of course, we live in a world, of course, where a lot of new projects are coming each and every day, and it's really hard um, to 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 identify yourself as, hey, we're different. So you have to keep building that momentum. You have to keep inventing yourself. And if you can combine the fact that you keep inventing yourself and you can keep that high APY, then you have a pretty good chance of being sustainable. But of course, you need to put different measurements to make sure that you can have that high APY. Because I told you, you have that every 10 minutes a contract creates new tokens, and those are distributed to new holders. So it's an inflationary effect. So you also have to put on the other side something that is also deflationary. And there are Wildfire Pit and also the investments that we do with the Treasury wallet, that those profits flow back to the community. It's really to make sure that we can sustain that high APY. So we really thought it's very true, and we really took us our time to really think like, hey, how can we do that? How can we sustain that? Because I told you, if you can't deliver what we promise, then we won't last. Because at the end, your community also wants to know like, hey, if I put this kind of money, after 1 year, I will have more or less this kind of money, and you have to deliver what you promise 100%.
Okay. And then Dean wants to know, I think he's talking to you. Originally, I thought he was talking to me, but I think he's talking to you. Would you be willing to have an AMA with Brian, the CEO of Safuu? And have you considered some joint ventures with, because people do kind of see these as, competitors. So have you considered joint ventures or anything like that?
I'm always open to talk to everyone. I would never say no. Even in our Discord channel, because I think one of the other members said like, hey, even if you talk about Safuu or Titano or Sphere or whatever, you can always share your opinion. You will never hear one of the core team members or moderators talk bad about a project, because it's not really fair. Every project is trying its best, and you can't really compare them 100% next to each other. And we just try to be as honest as we can without being negative towards the project. So I would always be open to have an AMA with everyone. I would never say no, to be honest. And you would never hear me say something bad about them. That's not the way I am, and not the way I want to be honest.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, there's enough people that are not in any projects where you don't need to steal from other projects.
Of course.
Like the pie is big enough. Like you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to look at it that way.
Diversification, you said it yourself. I'm not saying if you have $5,000 to just invest in us, I would be happy, but I would even advise to spread your risk, and that's the best piece of advice I'm giving you. Besides that, you always have to do your own research, and if you see any red flags, don't invest. But it's a very nice strategy. Or you can also do a dollar cost average. It's an overall strategy that I always say to people, because I see a lot of new people joining our Discord who never heard about DeFi or who never used MetaMask. So all those questions, I find it also my responsibility to provide the correct answer. Like, hey, how you should connect your wallet, how you should create the MetaMask, what is DCA, what is holding, what are all those terminologies. I'm really trying to explain those to people, because when I started with crypto, I had nobody who explained this to me. I really had to look it up and start to read myself. And yeah, sometimes I bumped my head against the wall, and I had to learn from it. I always got rug pull and all those kind of things. So at that time, it would have been nice if I had somebody who could take my hand and say like, look here, you can read that, but always do your own research. So I think it's very important, especially because you have each and every day new members joining the Discord and the crypto space, to also educate them and provide all the information that they need to make their own decisions.
Yep, totally agree. Well, hey man, I think I'm going to let you head to bed. Okay, I think that's most of the questions I think we got here. For those people who are watching, if you liked Odysseus and you want to get involved, again, the website is SuuperProtocol.com. Don't forget the extra U. Is there a super protocol? Where does that take you to if you get a typo? It's not it's some other site. Make sure you have 2 U's. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you can buy the token from their website. I think there's even a buy with fiat option, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they make
Something that
it
we
pretty
introduced
easy.
last week. Yeah.
Okay. Does that work in the US too, do you think?
It should be working. You should try it. You know what, James? I'm inviting you to try it.
Yeah, I should. That's a silly question for me to ask. I'm in the US. I could just give it a try. I'll do that and let you know.
Yeah, let me
Um,
know.
yes, but yeah. So go ahead and buy, and then if you buy off Pancake Swap, you're gonna have to set the slippage up to
15 more or less.
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
15-ish. And again, that's because there's a sell tax and a buy tax. And another thing, sometimes people commonly forget when you sell, you need to raise the slippage also. Sometimes I get a lot of people saying
Yeah.
Titano's a scam, I can't sell. And it's like, no, it's
Yeah, don't worry. And if you have any questions, just join our Discord. Even if you don't want to invest yet, just join, ask some questions, join our next video AMAs, and then decide for yourself if you want to invest or no. And I will be more than happy to answer all your questions and all the core team members, of course, as well.
awesome. Well, hey, thank you, man. Thanks for getting out of bed so early. Maybe you should head back to bed.
Yeah, I think I'm heading back to bed. I think that's a very good idea.
Okay, and I'm gonna head to bed also. Actually,
Right.
I'm not. I have another video I'm gonna do, and then I'll go to bed.
All
Uh,
right.
but yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Also, appreciate all of your time, and thank you so much, man. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you guys out.
All right. Thank you. Have a nice day, James. Bye bye.
All right, you too. Bye bye.